listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Welcome into the GM Shuffle. GM Shuffle presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. I am Geoff Schwartz, 8 years in the National Football League alongside Marty Hurney, 30 years in the front offices of the Chargers, the Panthers, and the Washington Commanders football team. Commanders, Redskins, is one of those three. You were general manager there. I don't know which nickname. Did you switch over nicknames while you were there?
Which one was I? Yeah, it went from the Washington football team to the Commanders.
Okay. All right. Do you have any say in that? Was that at all? Did they ask you for your opinion on that?
No.
Ask you for your opinion on that?
No.
Well, I will ask you your opinion a lot on this show. We're going to go over news and notes, some of the coaching firings. We're going to talk through Marty's process of what you do now if you're the Giants and you fired Brian Daboll, or you're another team and you fired your coach, and the process of trying to vet coaches and where you go from here. We'll talk, of course, the games this week, and we'll hit you with our best bets to end the show. So, Marty, of course, as usual, the rule of podcasting is that news breaks as soon as you finish recording the show. That happened on Monday. We record our show, and about an hour later, the Giants fired Brian Daboll, who was 2-8 this season. And look, I think a lot of us agree Brian Daboll knows how to coach, especially in offense, but you cannot continue to lose the games the way they're losing them and keep your job. You also can't continue to put Jackson Dart in a spot to get hurt. And I'm not sure that's totally his fault, but 4 games this year, Jackson Dart's been evaluated for concussion. Not good. And again, maybe not all in the coaching, because you can't tell a player not to run as much as you might want to. That's part of their game. But not keeping him healthy, I would imagine, played a large role in him not keeping his job, Marty. So just from that perspective of the Giants firing Brian Daboll, what do you think about that move?
Well, I mean, I think that when Jackson Dart got hurt, I think they're looking for Brian Daboll to develop Jackson Dart, right? And listen, I cannot put Jackson Dart's injuries on coaching. You know, Geoff, they're telling him slide, get down. I mean, every day they're saying slide, get down. That's just the way he plays. He's going to have to change that to survive in this league. And I sure hope he does, because he's got all the talents to be a very good franchise-type quarterback, in my opinion. But you're right. I mean, it was 2-8, I think, for the third year in a row, wasn't it? And I think the ownership just felt like they had to make a change. And I think one of the good things is that John Mara came out and said, listen, General Manager Joe Schoen is here. He's gonna spearhead the search for the new head coach. And listen, that's hard. I mean, it's hard for Joe Schoen. Came in with Brian Daboll. You spend more time with the head coach than you do your wife during the season. So you get a relationship. And personally, it's hard to see a guy lose his job and go out the door. It really is. I mean, it's the personal aspect of it is extremely hard. But you have to get over that, and you have to start looking forward. And right now what you do is everything's got to be in-house. Everything's got to be quiet. And I always believed in really specific names, specific plans. It should be the owner and the general manager. You don't want names getting out. You got to be very careful to obey all the rules as far as not tampering with coaches from other teams. But you do use people in the building to basically, ask the analytics guys to go through all the assistant coaches. I always believed in this. This is how I always got the list of head coaches for me. I followed the players' comments. I mean, every day I would read clips on other teams, and I would read what other players said about assistant coaches. And players know coaches. I followed the players, and it worked out fairly well for me. I mean, John Fox, Ron Rivera, were 2 very good head coaches. So, and every year I would make a list, right? So if I'm, at a place that is now looking for a head coach, I would kind of go to the list and start really digging in. And basically right now I have a list of about 5 or 6.
Marty, before you get to your list, we'll get to your list. I want to ask a couple more like follow-ups on some things you said. because I think it's just important to learn about this process. So you mentioned that Joe Schoen, the GM, is staying. We can debate whether or not that was the right move. I don't know if he's built a roster good enough the last couple of years to keep his job. But as firing, like the way the firing goes down, is that the owner calling Joe Schoen and saying, hey, man, Brian's got to go. You got to call him and tell him. Is there a meeting on his calendar put on place on Monday? Hey, come meet the owner. Like, what's that process like on Monday with that final decision to fire Dable? Is it like the owner and John Mara and Joe Schoen talk Sunday night? Like, how does that actually go down, Marty?
It really depends on the building and the owner. You know, some owners will bring the head coach in one-on-one and say, listen, we just have to make a change. Normally, the owner would meet with the general manager first, say, this is what we're going to do. Some owners will tell the general manager to bring him in and have the meeting. Other owners would want to bring the head coach in himself one-on-one and meet with him. And you know, it just depends on the building. But either way, the general manager knows that the move is coming. The owner has talked to him and either said, let's meet with the head coach together. You tell the head coach, or I'll meet with head coach alone.
If an owner came to you and said, we need to fire our coach, and you felt differently, do you have a say in that, or is it up to the owner?
Well, you have a say. I mean, I think you're always very honest about and those conversations just don't happen that morning, that day, that week.
Of course.
Those conversations are every week. And you know, hopefully you meet with the owner every week. And I think the head coach will meet with him every week. But I think that you give your opinions, but at the end of the day, it's the owner's decision.
Interesting. You know, I find this relationship so fascinating because you talked about this before, like a lot of owners aren't there every day, and they probably rely more on the general manager for that decision, where the Giants are there every day. That's their job. Yes. That's their baby. Yes. You see the ownership there every single day. They're at practice every day. Some of the ownership is part of, I don't know if they're still part of it, but they were part of the personnel department when I was there. And so like they're very involved in it. When you have an ownership group that's not as involved, is that process a lot different than someone who's there every day? I feel like if someone's not involved very often, their input, they would probably rely on the general manager a little bit more for that, right? Than themselves to make that decision.
You would hope they would. Now, the thing that worries you there is if the owner's not in every day and you don't have constant communication, is who is he listening to? You know, I mean, is he listening to his brother? Is he listening to friends outside? Because, you know, Geoff, everybody's got opinions. Everybody's got the answers. But at the end of the day, I think the owner would, in that case, would communicate with the general manager and say, listen, this is what we have to do. And that's a case where the general manager would probably bring the head coach in. And then after the head coach is fired, the general manager has to go and meet with the assistant coaches who are all, you know, on edge, obviously. Name an interim head coach, explain how this is going to go, and go from there. But it depends. I mean, if an owner is not in the building every day, he probably would give it to the general manager, but it just depends on the individual. They may come in and meet with the head coach and the general manager together.
So I'm not asking you guys, listeners, to feel sorry for coaches who are making a good wage, but when a coach gets fired, I don't think we really acknowledge what that means for the rest of the staff. That entire staff is most likely going to have to find another job next season. So you're looking at, you know, an entire list of people. You go to any website right now and find the entire list of staff members. And they know right now, like as of November, 13th, that come the end of the season, they're out of a job. That's families, that's their wives, that's different others that are having to move and pack up and go play. So it's a tough decision just personally to let a coach go. Everyone knows that. The owners know that. But it's difficult. It's not just the head coach who gets canned. It's everyone else. As much as you might think as a coach, you have a chance to stay as interim. It doesn't happen very often. And then, of course, you might want to hire your own guys. So there's a trickle-down effect. And I'm asking you to feel sorry for the coaches. They chose this profession. But the reality is you're not just firing one person often. You're firing everyone on the staff. So It's always a tough decision when that has to be made. So let's talk now, Marty, about your list. I thought we were friends, Marty, and then I look at your list, and you just want to take a knife and just jab it right to my heart.
I knew.
Just twist it out and pull out, just like look at my heart right in front of my face. So that being said, let's hear your first NFL coaches to hire. Now, this is just not for the Giants, right? Just for any coaching job.
This is just if I was there, these are the guys that I would have whittled it down to at this point. And listen, it can always change, Geoff. You're continuing to do research and work, but I don't believe in having a list of 20 people to interview. I mean, that's like going to the combine and drafting a guy in the first round because he had a great workout, and we know how that usually turns out, right? I mean, you're interviewing these guys from their body of work. And again, I've always believed in following the players. And when I did this, I knew that I was gonna. I didn't even want to tell you because I knew you would. But I don't think you have anything to worry about. But a guy that I am just very impressed with is Dan Lanning, the Oregon head coach, and I've been around him a couple times. You listen to his players. He's just he's the real deal. Now I think he's very happy at Oregon. I think it there's not necessarily nobody even knows. He probably wouldn't even want to leave. And some general managers are hesitant to hire a head coach and bring him into the NFL level because the question of whether he can make the transition or not. But I think leaders are leaders. Dan Lanning has impressed me in so many different ways. He's described as an even keel with strong leadership, a communicator. He creates cohesiveness in the locker room. And you want to bring it to the NFL level? Look what he did with Bo Nix. I mean, Bo Nix coming out of Auburn was nowhere near a first-round draft choice, right? I mean, he would have been a middle-round draft choice probably at best. And he brought Bo Nix to Oregon and just totally changed his whole perception. And Bo Nix became a really good quarterback under Dan Lanning. And I think, listen, we've talked about this, a quarterback league. That's really important.
We'll continue this discussion with Lanning and other candidates on the GM Shuffle presented by DraftKings Network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
We're back on the GM Shuffle, if only to break my heart, Marty, as we talk more about coaches and possibly where they might end up in the National Football League here. Continuing our discussion about Dan Lanning very quickly here. Obviously, for those who are unaware, I'm an Oregon guy. I love Dan Lanning. He may leave after he wins a championship. You're free to go, coach, after that happens eventually. Probably not this year. I think next year is our year for that. His name will be brought up in NFL. I've already talked to some people that cover the NFL. It's going to be brought up. There were talks about if Mike McDaniel were to be fired, Stephen Ross would be very interested in Dan Lanning. To your point, the information I've gotten, and he has said publicly, is he's not ready to leave yet. His kids are still in school and they're settled into Eugene, and there's no point in him leaving. The one job he would take, I think immediately, will be Kansas City. He's a Chiefs fan. He grew up in the area, but Andy Reid's not going anywhere. And I don't think that Clark Hunt would hire Lanning after Andy Reid anyways, but that is the job that he would take. I think he would take that immediately because that's, he grew up in that area, and you don't turn down one of 32 NFL jobs. That's, I think, the way I look at that. But he's a fantastic coach, man. 47-3 in 4 seasons. Now, and remember, I bring this point a lot when it comes to coaching. It's worth with college coaches, maybe more in the NFL, because we see it a little bit more in college, is that, Dan's 38 years old. I believe he was 38 years old. This is his first head coach job ever, right? Ever. And it takes a long time in college for first-time head coaches to win championships. Ryan Day was 6 years. Kirby Smart was 6 years. People point to like Urban won in year 2 at Florida, but that was his third coaching stop, right? He was at Bowling Green. He was at Utah. It takes time to learn how to be a head coach in college football, and you have a very small margin of error, right? In the NFL, you can lose 6 games and win a division, and go to the postseason and win a championship. You can lose 2 games max in college football. That's it, right? And you might not even be a playoff team, even a 12-team playoff. So it takes time to learn and grow. And I think one thing about Lanning that I've loved watching him over the years is his ability to self-evaluate, Marty, adapt, evolve, and grow. And we've seen it now in his 4th season where the team, even week to week, I don't know if this is an Oregon podcast, but last week they go to Iowa and it's raining and it's cold and they're down their top 2 wide receivers. They just ran the ball 40 times. They might have games where they pass the ball 40 times. So the ability to adapt, get better each and every year, I understand, has the minds of NFL owners and decision makers. Next on your list, Marty, here is a defensive coordinator for the Chargers.
Yeah, Jesse Minter, and he's been described by players as being very detailed oriented. He's a good communicator, believes in complementary football, is very good with scheme fits and really taking away the big plays, tactical intelligence, as I said. So I think he's going to be somebody that is on a lot of lists and. Been with Jim Harbaugh, and obviously that helps a lot. He's got a tough mindset. He's been around Jim Harbaugh, see how Jim Harbaugh operates as a head coach. And you have to be able to relate to players. You have to be a good communicator. And Geoff, these young players coming up, they're different than the players that like when you came up. And every generation probably says it, but you have to have an ability to relate and motivate these young players. And I think that certainly Dan Lanning and then Jesse Minter has that. And so does Clint Kubiak, the next guy. I mean, Clint Kubiak is been players have noted his versatility and creativity, putting them in the right position to succeed. And that's a big part of coaching in the NFL. Players want to be put in the positions that they can maximize their skill sets. And he does a very good job of that. He's a young offensive coach that is done a great job with Sam Darnold. And believes in a balanced attack with a running game that and uses the backs as both runners and receivers. So I think he's going to be a name that you'll hear a lot. And then I always have a problem with his first name, but Ujiro Evero, the defense coordinator at the Carolina Panthers. I have heard a lot of people say a lot of good things about him. He's very knowledgeable, intelligent. He's got leadership abilities. He mentors players. He communicates. He relates to them. He motivates them. The defensive players at the Panthers have nothing but good things to say about him, and he would be another person I think to look at and interview and continue to kind of investigate in depth. Then Mike Kafka, we mentioned him weeks ago about would Tennessee be interested. I think that Mike Kafka, I don't know whether it's a good position or a bad position, but he's got an audition now for the next 8 or 9 weeks to show what he can do. I like his first couple moves. I mean, I like the fact he's starting Jameis Winston this Sunday. So I think that he's a young, bright offensive mind. And he's going to have a chance. And it's a hard job. It's a hard position to step into as an interim head coach. But he's going to have that chance to show what he can do. Other than that, the other guy I just would like to mention, because I spent about 8 hours with him when after Ron Rivera left the Panthers, and that's Mike McCarthy. I went out to Green Bay. He's got a barn. He's got a whole office set up. He's constantly watching tape. He even brought a young guy, analytics guy, because he knew that was one of the knocks on him. You talk about a guy who is just he gets the big picture. He can work with personnel people. Very open-minded. Good communicator. It's just, there's 2 things that are going to be hard to sell owners on. And one is he's been a head coach twice. And the other thing is there's this perception that he's old school. And with a lot of owners these days, analytics is so important. And Mike uses analytics. I mean, just like everybody does. But when it comes to experience, I think I would always lean on my own experience over analytics. But he is a terrific coach, and he's a great guy. He actually could be talked to and interviewed at any time now because he doesn't have a job.
All right, I have so many follow-ups, Marty. We're going to save some of them for like the end of the season. We actually are hiring these coaches. But one thing that came to my mind here is the difference between offense and defensive coach. Right now, you're hiring someone I would imagine to grow Jackson Dart. I'm only concerned about hiring a defensive coach is that offensive coordinator they bring in. If that guy's any good, within 2 years, he's getting his own head coaching job, and now you're searching for another offensive coach. And so do you lean towards an offensive guy like a Kubiak or Kafka, let's just say, because you know that if they hit with Jackson Dart, they're not leaving it, they're not going anywhere, versus if you hire a defensive guy and they are good on offense, that offensive coordinator is going to be a head coach within a couple of years. You lose that connection with that young quarterback.
That would not be something that I would consider, Geoff. That would be, to me, my brain's only so big, and I can't take all that other stuff in there, right? I'm looking for the best guy, and if I hire the right defensive coach, he's going to hire the right offensive coordinator and build the right staff, and you're always going to be able to find somebody to step into that role. I think what you need is a leader of men. You need somebody that can bring the offense, the defense, the special teams together. You need somebody that can communicate and relate to these young players. And so I think that it really doesn't matter. I used to lean on defensive coaches because they evaluate personnel more than offensive coaches. John Fox always said offensive coaches go out there and just throw plays against the wall. Defensive coaches have to counterpunch and really evaluate the offensive players and players on both sides of the ball. But now it doesn't matter. Listen, if you get a young offensive coach that's the right guy, yeah, that's he probably wins the tie. But right now, I think you just have to go after the best head coach you can find.
Yeah. If you like what you're hearing here on the GM Shuffle, there's even more VSiN Pro betting splits, power rating, sharp analysis, all for $9.99 your first month. Go to vsin.com/subscribe and check out all the subscription options. Let's talk about the New York Giants against the Green Bay Packers this weekend. This game is in New York, and the Packers are favored by 7 points, Marty. The Giants are going with Kafka, head coach. I imagine he's going to call plays. And they're going with Jameis Winston at quarterback over Russell Wilson, which I think is the absolute right decision here. Russell Wilson, even the limited time he got in last game, Marty, he looked like a deer in headlights. Like just not capable, I think, of commanding an offense in a way that helps you win a football game. Marty, the Packers being a 7-point favorite over anyone in the National Football League, I don't get it. The last 6 games for the Packers, right? Or I think it's 7 games now. It's the Browns. They lost 13-10. It's a tie to the Cowboys, right? 40-40. They then did not cover a big number against the Joe Flacco-led Bengals. Then it was the Arizona Cardinals, who they beat by 4 at the last second, right? That they come back and win that game. They did beat the Steelers by 10. They lost the Panthers and lost the Eagles. So that's covering one of the last 7 games. And the Giants are 2-8, but it's not because they're not competitive, Martin. They keep blowing the end of these games. Like they're in all these games. And so I strongly lean the Giants in this game. What you said about the Packers, I've repeated, I've given you credit, is that no one fears this offense. Like you watch the game on Monday, the Eagles defense did not fear anyone in this offense. And this offense has legit problems now. So I like the Giants here plus the 7 points, Marty.
I agree. I love the Giants here plus the 7 points. And I love the fact that Mike Kappa came in. The first thing he did was make a decision who's going to start and said Jameis Winston is starting. It might have been obvious, but he came out and he showed that he can make a decision right away and wasn't afraid of doing it. He is going to call the plays, by the way. He's going to continue to call the plays. I just think the Giants are a talented team. And that, people will say, I think Joe Shane has done a very good job as far as how he has built this roster. Listen, Jackson Dart got him at 25. And if he can stay healthy, he's going to be their franchise quarterback. 25th pick in the first round. I mean, that's incredible. That's I always think that low. I think Aaron Rodgers, and I'm not saying he's Aaron Rodgers, but I mean, he's also put defensive line, offensive line. He has really put the energy and the emphasis on offensive line, defensive line, which I agree with. And I think the Giants' defensive line is going to get after Jordan Love this week, and I think it's going to be a good game.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
We're back on the GM Shuffle. Time to get into the slate for the week, and we start with Thursday Night Football here. Jets at Patriots. I don't know, maybe I'll be wrong about the Patriots for the 10th straight week in a row, Marty, but I don't have much for this one. I mean, this is a big spread, 12.5 points. Thursday Night Football tends to be ugly and gross, and it's a short week. I mean, I would lean toward taking the Jets here plus the points, Marty, but it probably will see none of my money for this one tonight. I do think the Patriots probably handle business and move it along. What'd you make, by the way, of Aaron Glenn not attacking Rich Cimini, but basically, they asked about quarterback and health, and Garrett Wilson, as you say, and his health, and he said, just ask Rich. He has all the answers. That came off to me as very sensitive and off-putting, and I don't know why he went to attack the reporter for just probably reporting what the agent told him.
Well, there's been a lot of emotions for Aaron Glenn here in the last few weeks, and I think that one of the things you learn as a young head coach is that doesn't do you any good. You can't do that. And listen, I came out, I made those mistakes at times too. And he just, he let his emotions get to him. Obviously, I don't think Garrett Wilson's going to be available for a little bit of time. And that obviously Aaron Glenn knows how much that's going to hurt. But I'm like you in this game, Geoff. It's a really big number. I wouldn't touch this at all. I will say this. I was really impressed how the Jets responded to Aaron Glenn last week after you let you let Quinnen Williams, you trade Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner. If there was ever a chance that a team would just pack it in, it would be then. They come out, they scored 2 special teams touchdowns right off the bat. I just get the feeling that this Jets team is going to keep fighting for an Aaron Glenn. And I can't touch the game as well because the Patriots are playing so well right now, but they are ready for a little bit of a letdown. I think the Jets are gonna keep giving everything they got. So I'm not going to touch the game, but it's an awfully big number to me.
So the Jets last week were tied at 17-17 with the Browns, and in the third quarter, Justin Fields had 5 yards passing. So I don't know how sustainable this is for them. But we'll see what it looks like tonight. Moving along to some really good games this week, and there's some important games here. The first one is Tampa Bay at Buffalo. Both teams 6-3. Both teams off losses. Obviously, the Patriots win against Tampa Bay was a little closer, but it felt like Tampa Bay controlled a lot of that game against Tampa Bay. And then, of course, Buffalo loses to Miami, Marty, and just a shocking result. Really never had a chance in that game whatsoever. I find this number interesting at 5.5 here for Tampa Bay. I don't know if the odds makers are looking at Buffalo as a team that's different than the team we've seen the last month. The last 5 games, I should say, Marty, they lost to New England. They lost to the Falcons. They lost to the Dolphins. And those games, they scored 20 points or less. Yes, they beat the Panthers. Yes, they had another win in there. I forget who it was against off the top of my head. But this team has not really played well offensively now for a while, Marty. Defensively, they can't stop the run. Tampa Bay will run the ball right at them, in my opinion. This game, to me, feels like a field goal game. And I don't know if we're properly adjusting for how different the Bills have looked recently. Oh, they beat Kansas City. I'm sorry. They did beat Kansas City, yes, which is important to note. They beat them every year, though. So I'm surprised the number is 5.5.
this is probably a game that is the Bills of getting more than 3 points as far as home field advantage goes. I would think that's why the number is so big. I would not touch this game, but if I did, I would have to take the points. I think that coming off a loss like Buffalo did to Miami, it's a little bit different if you're in a dogfight with Kansas City and you lose and you come back. There's a confidence factor right now that the Bills better find quickly. When you go down against a team that you're supposed to beat and get beat pretty handily in a division game, they have to figure out what's going on. There's something not right now with the Bills. You're right, Geoff. They haven't played like we expect them to play over the last month or so. When players come out after the game and say the other team had more energy than they did, that is a red flag to me. So I could not give 5.5 with Buffalo in this game.
You would think that after they beat Kansas City, though, like they would have the energy against Miami. Like that's really worrisome, right? We talked about this on Monday. And I don't feel like they're just going to turn on for Tampa Bay, who also, by the way, lost and didn't play terribly well, especially in the places they're normally good at, which is in the trenches, right? And there's no fix for Buffalo's run defense, Marty. There's nothing that Buffalo can do between the end of the game Sunday and the time they play next Sunday, or this Sunday, I should say, to help. They've allowed 200 yards to Falcons. They allowed 200 yards to Achane, do whatever he wanted against them. Look, there's no Achane on the Bucs, but they have a good offensive line, right? They return the right tackle. White can run. Tucker can fill in as well. It just feels like there's no actual fix for the Bills' problems. And then you might get into the situation, which I think they're in their worst spot, which is the Josh Allen YOLO stuff, right? Where it's just Josh Allen trying to do too many things. And the reason why he's gotten better over the years is he stopped doing that so much and the turnovers went away. For a long period of time, he turned the ball over way too much, right, Marty? Because he tried to do too much in these situations. And it worries me that we're going to see a return to that because they don't have the weapons offensively to keep up in a lot of these games. So I'm very fascinated by this one in Buffalo.
And if you look, James Cook has rushed for under 100 yards in 3 games, and they've lost all 3 games. You don't think Todd Bowles is going to come out and say, listen, this is the guy we're stopping right now. We're going to shut down James Cook and not let him rush for 100 yards. I think this is going to be a really interesting game to watch. But, you said one thing, Geoff, and you know as well as I do, you can't flip a switch. You can't turn it on and off in this league.
Correct.
You just can't. It's a game of confidence and momentum. And right now, both teams lost. Neither one of them is high on confidence. But, boy, the Buffalo Bills have to find a way to get that confidence back because when you come and lose a game like that, and then after the game saying, oh, we didn't have a lot of energy, I don't know. There's something that they really have to figure out.
Also worth noting about this game, too, as I look on social media right now, because, look, we record this obviously on Thursday. It's day 2 of the practice week. So you practice Wednesday, and then day 2 is Thursday. So there's still a lot of football left. It's worth noting that Bucky Irving and Chris Godwin are practicing on Thursday. So doesn't mean they're going to play. But if they're out there, that's typically a good sign that they're going to, you don't put guys out there in week, whatever, 12 it is that aren't, that are going to be out as practicing with the team. They work off the side. I love too, by the way. How about this, Marty? This is it looks like no helmets and no shoulder pads. Oh, what a dream at practice on a Thursday. What a dream. Well, oh man.
Bucky Irving makes a huge difference. Bucky Irving makes a huge difference. Huge difference.
When you'll like this story. In 2010, in week 17, we went to play the Falcons, our last game of the season, and we were not good, obviously. And I remember Foxy, John Fox, our head coach. He called this is the story. He called Sean Payton, basically, who played them the week before, and asked how he practiced that week because the Saints beat the Falcons. And he learned that they went pads. And this is before, the CBA and you could be in pads. So in week 17, we were 2-13. We went full pads Wednesday, Thursday, and half of Friday as a 2-13 team. We lost like 38-0. It did not help us prepare to play the Falcons in the following game of the season. I always remember that, to make the season worse, here's full pads for you guys in week 17 in the dead of winter in Charlotte. to prepare to lose a game by a lot of points. So I'm jealous. I'm just jealous. I'm just jealous of the Tampa Bay players. And Chiefs don't practice with helmets and pads after week 8. I'm just jealous, Marty. I'm an old, bitter, jealous football player.
Makes sense. I mean, you got to stay healthy. You got to stay healthy. So I'm all for that, by the way, as far as, no pads, no helmets, and just get the timing down.
Because this time of year, like, you've done the physical work. It's now the mental work. Guys know how to block. They know how to tackle. They don't need to do that in practice as much anymore. So that is one change I like about the National Football League. Let's talk about a game that's super important in the AFC West. The 5-4 Chiefs off a bye go to the 8-2 Denver Broncos. The Fugazi Broncos, Chiefs favored by 3.5 points here. Josh Simmons is back for Kansas City, should be playing at left tackle for them this week. Trey Smith is another week healthy at right guard. Pacheco may or may not be back. Doesn't really move me very much for what Kansas City's ability to do here. We know Andy Reid off a bye is some insane, like 21-3, 21-4. They're real good off a bye. I've been on a lot of coaches, Marty, and his ability to self-scout his team is unlike anything I've been a part of. Where I remember after a week 9 bye, week 10 bye we had in 2013, we were 9-0 on Kansas City that season. I remember we went to the bye week and our offensive line coach, still there, Andy Heck, came to the offensive line room and said, here's the percentage of successful runs for each run concept that we have. And Andy Heck, he loves what he called God's play, power. He called it God's play, Marty. You want to run power as much as possible. And we get into that meeting in week 10, and he goes, power is 13% successful. We're throwing it out. We're done. We're not running power anymore. And we just ran the plays we're good at. I've never had a coach do that before, Marty. Tell us to our faces, like, here's what we're good at. We're going to do these things. Now, we have to keep a little bit of gap runs in to keep defense honest, but that's why they're so good off a bye, is they do such a good job of self-evaluation. They did not play well in their last game, Marty. I don't trust the Broncos offensively. They designed a game plan that to me is void of trusting their quarterback. I'm not saying the Chiefs cover this game, Marty, but they'll win this game on Sunday.
Yeah, they would be my best bet as far as money line winning the game. I'm with you. The 3.5, I still haven't decided whether I want to take a chance there or not, because, you go back to the old thing, what is it, 75, 80% of the teams that win games cover, right? I feel very strongly that the Kansas City Chiefs win this game. So if I were going to bet this game at all, I would have to if I didn't just do the money line, I'd have to give the 3.5. But you just get the feeling that with all this muddle in the AFC that the Chiefs are going to be there in the end.
Well, let's come back and talk some NFC, because we have 2 big games in the NFC. Sunday Night Football, we have a huge NFC West matchup. We'll do that next on the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings Network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Welcome back to the GM Shuffle. Our best bets will be just a few minutes, so stay tuned for that. I actually won some bets last week, Marty, so we're back on the winning track. I like that. It's good to feel better about talking about that when you actually get a few wins under your belt here. Monster week in the NFC, Marty. Huge week in the NFC. The NFC West, Seattle Seahawks at the Los Angeles Rams. This game is fascinating for many reasons, but one is that the Rams have done this for years now. Like, we know what they are. They're 7-2. They're favored by 3 in this game. They have looked good for most of the season. We trust Matthew Stafford. We trust Sean McVay. We trust their defense. Seattle has looked just as good this season, but I think we don't trust their quarterback. And we saw last season that in the bigger games in the season, Sam Darnold kind of wilted. I think for me, before I think they can win this game, I got to see Sam Darnold do it in this moment. This is a big game for them, right? The winner of this game takes a little bit of control of the division. Where this game feels good about where they might end up postseason. I think I like the Rams to cover in this game, Marty. Not my favorite wager of the weekend, but I trust what I know from Los Angeles. I still feel like I don't know enough about Sam Darnold in this spot. I lean Rams here. Not my favorite play of the weekend. How do you feel about this game?
if I was pushed, I'd probably have to take the Rams, but this one I'm just going to have a fun watching because I think I don't have as many doubts on Sam Darnold as you do. Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, you keep it, and obviously you're worried about them regressing and showing you the things that they showed when they didn't make it. But I think this offense, Clint Kubiak and Mike McDonald have this whole team, but this offense in particular is really strong. I mean, there isn't a weak spot in the entire offense, and they can beat you running the ball, passing the ball. Their backs can be effective out of the backfield. I think there's going to be points scored here. I think that if I probably had to play the game at all, which I probably will not, but over the 48.5 would probably look good. The Rams are if they're not, to me, the Rams and the Eagles are the two best teams right now in the NFC, with the Seahawks and in Detroit right there nipping at their heels. But Matt Stafford, to me, is still right now the MVP. I think that when Puka Nacua went out, Devontae Adams came in, they got the chemistry together. It gave them a chance to get chemistry between those two. Now Nacua comes back, and their offense is even that much stronger. So I would have to take the Rams here, but I'm just going to have fun watching this game.
What do you make of the tight end usage for both these teams? You saw last week the Rams went 13 personnel. It was a big deal. But part of that was injuries, right? And Seattle just hasn't had the wide receiver outside of JSN until they brought in Shaheed this week. So what do you make of this trend now to see more of this 13 personnel in action?
Yeah, copycat league, right? Everybody now is going to the three tight ends and the jumbo sets, and listen to me, I always thought that stuff was too. It's about matchups, right? So if you're against a team and you have a matchup that you think you're better off in a jumbo set with three tight ends, that's fine. But it still comes down to execution. So, and if somebody does it and it works, then we know how this league works. Everybody's going to start doing it for something different. I do think that running the ball is becoming, I think the running back importance is really coming back to being a critical factor on winning teams. And I've always felt that way, and I'm kind of happy to see that it's coming back now. I mean, if you can dictate the tempo with your running game and even the outlet passes to the running back, I think it gives you a huge advantage.
Look, the thing about 13 personnel or 12 personnel is there's more tight ends now that can do more things, that can catch a ball specifically, right? Yeah. And so when you go 13 personnel, how do you match it on defense? Do you match it with big guys? Well, then you're sort of kind of SOL when it comes to covering them in the pass, right? Marty, or do you match it with little guys and you just run duo and just duo teams to death and you just have no answer in the run game? So it really presents matchup problems. But both these teams know how to defend 13 because they play 13 in their own team. So I'm curious to see how this one goes. Big game Sunday Night Football between the Eagles and the Lions, Marty. Lions are 2.5-point underdogs at Philly, total 46.5 between these teams. I don't know what to make of the Eagles offense, buddy. Can you explain them to me? Can you explain their offense to me? I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense.
No, they're still kind of, I mean, when they are who they are, when they're running the ball with Saquon, when they're getting the ball, they're playmakers in the Devontae Smith, in Brown, AJ Brown, then they're the Eagles. They're the Eagles offense. I just think they've been so inconsistent right now. It's hard to get it. It's really hard to get a beat on. I was shocked that they only scored 10 points against the Packers. But Jalen Hurts is still playing well, Geoff. I don't think you can lay this on the quarterback. I just think that they have not found a week-to-week rhythm right now, and you would think they would because they've been so consistent with the same formula year after year. I just think that they're eventually going to find it, but that they're not right now.
Well, I hope they find this weekend. So do you the Lions, what we saw against the Commanders is what they're going to be moving forward? Any concerns that they were, that game was so good we might not see against Philly this weekend? Like, I think that the Lions offensive line allows them to play well in this game because their Eagles defensive line is so good. And the creativity saw from the Lions last weekend, I think the Lions could keep this up offensively. What do you think?
I agree. And also, you know what Dan Campbell did? I'm taking it over. I'm just going to get the ball to my playmakers. I'm going to let Jameson Wilson, run for 50 yards, or I'm giving it to Jahmyr Gibbs. They have so much speed on this offense, Geoff. I really think I'm starting to, the more we go, it would not surprise me in 2 or 3 weeks that I'm not sitting here telling you I think the Lions are the best team in the NFC. They're well coached. They have a lot of talent. They're on both sides of the ball, and they have speed. They're fast. They can run, and they utilize that speed. I like the Lions here. I like the Lions getting 2.5 points. It's not one of my best bets, but if I were to play the game, I would have to play Detroit.
One more NFC game before we turn our attention to those best bets. The Bears are 6-3, are at the Vikings 5-4. Vikings are favored by 3 in this game, Marty. What is the real Vikings? Is it the win against the Lions, or was it last week? What team are we going to see? The Bears, to me, are a little fugazi. They've won a bunch of close games recently, Marty. There's some really good from Caleb Williams. There's some sort of not great, which is sort of the path of young quarterbacks. I do feel like backing Minnesota after a bad loss and the Bears off a good win, a comeback win at that. What do you make of this matchup in the NFC North?
I have that same feeling. The problem here is you have 2 second-year quarterbacks, right? The 2024 quarterback class. And
yes,
young quarterbacks are going to go up and down. You don't know what they're going to get. If I'm the Bears, I just try to contain J.J. McCarthy and not let him make plays with his legs, and then try to give him different looks and confuse him in the passing game. It's hard for me to really take a side on this. I think that the Bears have gotten better every week. Caleb Williams has gotten better every week. Ben Johnson has proven to me to be an extremely good head coach. Some of the concerns coming in was great offense coordinators don't always make good head coaches. He had shown the ability to be a good head coach instilled with very creative play calling. If you force me to take a side, I would still have to take the Bears. I think the Bears are playing extremely well, but Minnesota is a very good team with a second-year quarterback who hasn't played a lot. Their running game is still kind of sketchy. I just think that there's a lot of questions there. I do like them as a tough, physical, competitive team. It's going to be a really good game, but I'd have to take the Bears if you press me on it.
I just want to see McCarthy's growth, right? Like, they need to end the season feeling really good about where he's at, and there's so much up and down. But he hasn't played a lot of football, right? Part of the thing about drafting him was that he needed to play football. He needed to play more to get in a rhythm, and he hasn't done that yet because he's been hurt. And so let's see if he continues throughout the season. We'll see a little better version of him maybe this week, but moving forward. Let's get into our best bets here, Marty. You have 2. I'm going to add one more. I'm going to add a third one here. So let's get to your first 2.
Well, we agree on one of ours, I think. I like the Giants getting 7 against the Packers for all the reasons we've said. I think this Giants team's going to come out and play with great energy for Mike Kafka. I do. And listen, I've always kind of liked Jameis Winston. Makes too many mistakes. He takes too many risks. He's got to take care of the ball. That's being drilled into his head. I think that the Giants' defensive line is going to pressure Jordan Love. And the Packers haven't shown me the ability to score points. So starting off with 7 points ahead of them makes me feel pretty good. So I like that. And then the over-under in the Cincinnati-Pittsburgh game, it's gone from, 48.5 to up to 50. Yeah. It's 49.5 right now. I like the over at 49.5. I think both teams are going to score points.
My best bets, I got 3 of them. We'll start with the prop. I like Zach Ertz over 43.5 yards. I do this every week. I take the tight end against the Miami Dolphins. Last week, Kincaid missed by a couple yards as he got hurt. He didn't play the second half of the game. He had 37 yards, and then Knox came in and had 37 yards in the second half. So, that's a lot of yards combined for tight end. So I like Zach Ertz in this game to have over his receiving total here. A favorite target of Marcus Mariota as well, without the healthy wide receivers for the Commanders. I like the Giants, as you mentioned, plus 7 points. They're not 2-8 because they don't play close games. They're 2-8 because they can't finish the game, right? They cover a lot of these games. You mentioned their defensive line against the Packers offense. I really like that matchup. And I'm curious about, I don't believe in sort of a dead coach bump unless the players didn't like that coach. And there's stories out of New York about sort of Brian Daboll's maybe a little rough around the edges. So maybe not having in the locker room will change the way they finish these games. And I like Tampa Bay plus the 5.5 against Buffalo. I feel like we could look at this game, Marty, and it's 38-17 and Buffalo destroys them. And I wonder how dumb was I to take this game, but I do like Tampa here playing this one close. If you like our show, like we like these wagers, please give us a rating, give us a review, share with your friends and family. Also on YouTube, if you're watching YouTube, click subscribe. Costs nothing, helps us out a lot. We appreciate it. We're back on Monday with a recap show from the week of football we just saw. And of course, Thursday is our look ahead show. Hope you guys enjoy the games this weekend. Take care, everybody.